Hi, my name is Aaron Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer and motivational speaker. Today we're going to enjoy part 1 of a Pearl Harbor veteran survival story. Some time ago I had the opportunity to interview Bob Rains, a Pearl Harbor veteran survivor. He went through that horrific day on December 7th, 1941, survived, and is now going to share part of his story.
Well, my name is Bob Rains. I went aboard the battleship Pennsylvania at Pearl Harbor in 1941 of June. I was aboard the morning Japanese attacked us. It was total surprise, not only to me, to everybody else, except the Japanese, I guess. And we were sitting in dry dock and repairing some of our hull, and on an early Sunday morning, it was a rude awakening when they came roaring in. Their aircraft, real low. You could see their faces. And I don't know whether this is a guess or not, but I swear he was grinning when he looked at us as he went by. They had one that was particularly visible. He came in astern of us and dropped a torpedo that went into the heavy cruiser Helena. But most of our involvement was anti-aircraft fire, and of course it took a while to get organized, but still all ships returned fire, and of course all the battleships that were on Fort Island took most of the damage. Had 7 battleships lined up in a row, and they came in low on the water with their torpedoes, and several of them got several torpedoes. But luckily, some of the ships were more double, and so the inboard ones, they got less damage than the outboard ones. The Oklahoma got several torpedoes. I don't know whether they finally came to the right number or not, but it's probably in excess of 10 torpedoes. Arizona got quite a few, and only she got bombs also that actually sunk her. We had 2 different raids. One early at 8 o'clock or 7:55, and then another one about 10 o'clock. Of course, the initial one was the worst because we weren't ready, and the second one, they were ready. And so they shot down quite a few of the planes. But I don't think there's much damage to the ships. It was mostly damage to the installations, except our tank farm, where all our fuel was stored. They didn't touch it. They could have damaged us more by hitting that tank farm than anything else, because we would have been completely out of fuel. My brother was on the same ship with me, and he was manning a 3-inch anti-aircraft gun, first loader, which means he threw the ammunition into the gun. And during the lull, I went down and seen him, and he had a 3-inch round of ammunition in his arms. Excuse me. And I asked him, I said, well, how you doing? And he didn't even answer me, and he just kept looking up. And so finally I tapped him on the shoulder, and it almost scared him. He almost dropped the round of ammunition he had. But he was okay and everything, and I went back up on my battle station. We both went through the incident without any damage to ourselves. We had, I think it was 26 casualties. We got hit with a 500-pound bomb, and it blew it up and down through a compartment. And most of the casualties were in the marine compartment. But we worked all day, and then the next day, cleaning up the ship. When they took and dropped the bombs that hit us, they also hit 2 destroyers ahead of us in dry dock, the Cassin and the Downs. And they, not only that, they hit all that oil came, ruptured fuel tanks on the destroyers. And of course, when they flooded the dry dock, all that oil stayed on top of the water. But they finally got it, the next day, they got us out of there because they wanted to use that dry dock for the ships to repair it. And they knew that they could repair us in the yard there, naval yard. So we stayed there, and alongside dock, and other ships came in and got repairs in the the emergency repairs they needed in dry dock, and then out. And they had a steady stream of that over the days. We stayed there for 19th of December, and then we got underway and we headed for the States for repairs. And we got back to the States around the 1st of January, and went in dry dock again and got completely repaired and renovated like a new ship. New guns and the whole works. And we stayed in the States there for, well, that was the end of our involvement in Pearl Harbor. We didn't go back there until 3 years later. But we stayed in and out of San Francisco mostly, and we were undergoing repairs all that time, or the installation of new guns. We had several of those. But I could go on and on and on if you want me to.
Yeah, tell me, so what was your position?
Well, that was it as far as combat went. And then we took and during the Battle of Midway and Coral Sea, we went underway on Coral Sea. We went between Coral Sea and Pearl Harbor, and on the other one we went up to Alaska to keep trying to, in case the fleet couldn't keep them out, that we were the last stand, you might say. But we operated in and out of San Francisco, and then I got transferred off from her onto an oiler and went to the South Pacific. And the oiler I was on was anchored bow and stern, and the other ships would come in and fuel from us and get ammunition from us and whatever needs they have, and then they'd go right back out again, and we would replenish what they took. And we'd refuel from another larger tanker. But I stayed there until acting on the signal tower there for visual communications until in early part of 1944. And first went there, we got a few air raids, but mostly it was just scare tactics. One plane at night, they called him Wash Machine Charlie. He's this vibration of his motors weren't quite synchronized, or maybe that was his standby, I don't know. But never saw any more action. And I stayed out there 18 months and then came back to the States, had leave and everything, and then I got signed to the British Pacific Fleet. The war in Europe was over with, and so the Pacific Fleet of their designation came over, and they had got 3 carriers and 2 battleships and numerous things. So I got assigned to a destroyer escorting the carriers. So we never saw land the minute I got on there until the minute I got off. But I stayed on there until about a week before the war was over, and started back to the States. And just as we got into Pearl Harbor, the war was declared over. And I came back to the States again. But I stayed more or less operating on small ships until the Korean War started. And at that time, I was down in Compton, California, attached to a reserve training center. And the first thing they did, they grabbed me, put me on a plane, and flew me over to Tokyo, and was assigned to that area. Luckily, I was assigned to the Admiral's flagship. And I spent the rest of the time either on the flagship Mount McKinley or the flagship El Dorado, or until the end of the involvement with Korea. But we made started to make a landing at Busan, No, it's further north. But anyhow, we